Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's November 4th, 2023. And believe it or not, it's not raining in New Jersey for the first time in like 8 weekends, which is good. Weather's changing, leaves are falling. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Busy week in sports. Of course, I have Eli will be joining us momentarily. But we always start our show with the monologue, and it's always sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. And we thank them for their sponsorship of our show and the monologue this week. And I had to change things around. I had a monologue all set, but there was I'm going to take this from the end of our show where we usually do notable passings, and I'm going to bring this up as our monologue because I really admired this guy, and a lot of people could have different opinions, but Bobby Knight passed away this week at 83 years old. And, you want to talk about a polarizing figure in sports. He was certainly it. Couple of points about him. Yes, he was a hothead and very passionate about what he did and so forth, but he won. And he won 3 national championships with Indiana. And one of those teams was the 1975-76 Indiana team, was the last undefeated team in college basketball. And I remember that. I was relatively young, but I remember it vividly. Steve and I watched those games, every one, and it was awesome. But he also won a national championship in 1981 with Isaiah Thomas, and in 1987 beat Jim Boeheim in Syracuse on that great last-minute shot by Keith Smart. But a couple of things about Bobby Knight. And, the one thing that gets lost is, yes, he was a hothead, but let's just look at his resume real quick. And, he started out coaching at Army, and Mike Krzyzewski was one of his players there, and we all know how Mike Krzyzewski worked out. Pretty good, to say the least. And he was also friends with Bill Parcells at Army, who was the Army football coach at that time. But one thing that stands out that seems to get lost is Bobby Knight made these kids go to class. And that was a priority for him, no matter how good of a basketball player you were. And that's gotten lost in today's game. Some of these guys absolutely don't go to class. They're there now. Now it's kind of a one and done thing, as we know. But he was passionate about education first and basketball second. And, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on him. I think he was great as a basketball coach, and also as someone who really believed that education was the foundation, because you need that, because your basketball days will come to an end at some point. So, and the famous call always was Dick Vitale, the way he used to call him, General Robert Montgomery Knight. It was awesome. So Bobby Knight, rest in peace. Great job. Very polarizing figure. And I would love to hear comments from our loyal listeners about their
Bobby Knight was one of the greatest, and he will definitely be missed here. And great impressions, by the way, from all the broadcasters you did. And also, we had a comment from Guy Coriano. He said, "Good morning, fellas," and good morning to you as well. And we are ready to remember, for wherever you're watching, feel free to comment on YouTube chats, Facebook chats, Twitter chats, or X, and email us at sportswithmonomano@gmail.com.
And I love that our sponsor is up and at him already and chiming into the show. And Guy, thank you very much. So, of course, like Eli said, send us a comment during the show, or send us a comment on email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com, because Bobby Knight was certainly a big loss in the world of college basketball this week. So let's move on, Eli. Let's start off with the National Football League, right?
Yes, indeed.
Kind of a crazy game last week. I mean, if you were watching the Jets-Giants game, I mean, it was as ugly an offensive performance on both sides of the ball as you can get. But the
Yeah.
Giants had the lead with 28 seconds to go, and they lost that lead, and the Jets tied it, and the Jets winning in overtime, and we'll have Daniel Jones back this week,
Right.
so. But that was an unbelievable game, and
Let's just say it was a disappointment, rather. The Giants could not get a first down in that fourth quarter. The Jets did everything they could. Offense is still bad. Zach Wilson's clearly not the answer. We knew that from day one. Everybody could say that. And we all can agree. Zach Wilson is not the answer for the New York Jets. However, the defense is. And I think that is going to help this Jets team continue to win games. I think that defense is going to definitely drive this team to victory. Aaron Rodgers was practicing like normal. No question on when he will return. You don't think it's going to be very soon as we hope. As Aaron Rodgers was back on the Pat McAfee show, he was not fully confident about when he's returning because he has to make sure he's fully healthy before something else happens or before playing on the worst turf in the National Football League, a MetLife Stadium. So,
and that's an interesting point because I'm glad that you brought that up because I don't understand, why that's classified. I mean, as a bad field. This is a National Football League field. It's got to be almost exactly the same as it is in other stadiums. So I don't know that we can attribute all of these injuries to that particular field because we see it. We saw Kirk Cousins go down last week.
Don't get me wrong. It's not. I understand about the whole Kirk Cousins and all these other stadiums happening with the injuries. But most common, I believe, is MetLife Stadium. We've been on the turf before. They've updated for times and time out, and it's clearly a big factor whenever you're playing at MetLife. And so far, every game that the Giants and Jets have played is a significant injury. Mostly Monday Night Football was the biggest injuries for both the Giants and Jets and also for the visitors teams. But I think it does play a factor. Compared to other stadiums, you have more injuries in MetLife than you do other stadiums. So I think that is one crucial factor.
And if that's actually the case, I mean, then the league needs to step in and say, replace that turf immediately.
Right.
And I don't understand it. Like
there is no.
We go to high school football games and we see these fields and it's that artificial surface that seems to be the same. It's just kind of weird how it seems to happen more in Giant Stadium than any other place. It's kind of weird. So
yeah, and they said that there was no chance of putting grass in, and that is because of all the concerts and hockey games that they will now be coming to MetLife Stadium in the near future. They said, however, when it does come time for the World Cup, they will be back to grass, but not for football, just for the soccer, because it is the World Cup, and that is, of course, the biggest game of the tri-state area.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, but so if you're a Giant fan, you were sick. If you were a Jet fan, you felt lucky to get out with a win, and
you felt disappointed somewhere.
Yeah. So, and just to add insult to injury, I had a pizza delivered after the game, and the guy showed up who delivered my pizza with a Jets jersey on. How about that?
Good for him.
No, not good for him. I was.
He got the win going to a Giants fan now. That's always fun to watch.
Yep. All right. So listen, there's a couple other things that happened in the National Football League. We just briefly mentioned Kirk Cousins, right? Was having a great season, and he goes down with an Achilles injury, and that's a big loss for Minnesota, who seem to be bouncing back after a rough start. So he's done for the year.
Yeah, unfortunately, he is done for the year. He was a crucial part to this team, and yeah, big deal.
Right.
And we have a comment from Eric Henson. He says, if it comes out this true, we're bad. Is there a lawsuit possibility that trying to avoid? That they're trying to avoid? I think that they're talking about the field.
Yeah, I that's an interesting point, Eric. I don't know that, but like I said, I think the league needs to step in and say if that's the case, yeah, they could be facing lawsuits. Sure, if it's an inferior quality field for a multi-gazillion-dollar enterprise such as the National Football League.
But now who gets fined though?
Right.
Is it MetLife or is it both 50-50 for the Giants and Jets? Who splits that bill? That's a good question. Who gets to split that bill? Get half.
I got a feeling I know who's going to split the bill. It's going to be us, the taxpayer. That's who's going to.
Correct.
All right, so listen, a couple other things that went on in the National Football
Yeah.
League, right? So we thought the once, unbeatable San Francisco 49ers have suffered their third straight loss. That was a big loss again.
When you have
Um,
players injured, that changes the way everything is going. They played early good teams, not too great teams in the early window, and that is the why they had key to
mhm.
success. They played the Bengals last week. They're on bye this week. This is going to help the 49ers because they're also coming off of some injuries. So that's going to help. They've also picked up quite a few guys. They had Commanders Chase Young during the trade deadline. I'll get into more of that when I get to my topics later for the NFL. But yeah, there was a lot of trades added for the 49ers. That is definitely going to help them. Give them some more practice time. Get the guys who are unhealthy healthy again, getting ready for their next upcoming game, which is going to be huge.
Well, and it also goes to show that Brock Purdy is indeed human, right? He's not
Right.
Joe Montana yet. So
Correct.
he's starting to get a taste of life as an NFL quarterback. It's not always,
Yeah. It's not
you
always
know,
that easy, pal.
you don't always win 10 games in a row without throwing an interception, stuff like that. So, couple other things, quarterback wise, right? So the Raiders have fired Josh McDaniels, and subsequently
They fired the
benched.
GM David
Yeah,
Ziegler and core offensive coordinator Mike Lombardi.
yep, and they also sent Jimmy Garoppolo to the bench. So
Aiden
I
O'Connell
mean,
will start.
yeah, Aiden O'Connell's going to start against the Giants of all teams because they're coached. The Raiders are now coached by
Yeah.
Antonio Pierce, who was a
I,
former New York Giant.
I'm honestly going to say just one comment real quick, but honestly, I think it was a little too early when they fired the Raiders. I know all the comments with Devontae Adams won and everything, but you're playing the Giants this weekend. You could possibly get a win out of this game. And the fact that you went and did this too early, I think they did it too early. If you lost the Giants, I
Well,
would say time to fire. But you're playing the Giants. You could have got a win. You could have changed, people's perspective about you. I just thought it was too early, and I think we may not see a good success, coming up for the Raiders. And don't get me wrong, I picked the Raiders to win this weekend against the Giants. It's not one of our picks that we're doing today, but when I did the show yesterday with Jack on the 12th Horseshoe podcast, I picked the Raiders. I still think they're going to win regardless of all the decisions that's happening with the coaching and Jimmy Garoppolo bench. But yeah.
well, this could be one of those cases where an excellent offensive coordinator or something like that doesn't necessarily translate into a head coach. And this is the second time Josh McDaniels has been fired. I mean, he will end up back on his feet, but and there has been a history of when coaches get fired in the middle of the season, the following week it seems to bring some sort, so they have a more of a higher winning percentage the week after a coach is fired. So listen, this is a make or break week for the Giants altogether. I mean,
It's been like that
they
every single
cannot,
game.
yeah, but they cannot lose to the Raiders, who is a team that's been spiraling downhill. And listen, this is Daniel Jones is back. He's healthy. um I still think he's the right guy for the job. A lot of people, we talked a lot about it last week, but they need to go into Las Vegas and win that game. And
Yeah.
like I said, the state of affairs right now is not good. So um, picking the Raiders is not exactly a reach.
Exactly. Before we move on, I just want to give out a few quick other notes for the NFL and some topics. We are less than 99 days away from Super Bowl 58, and all Super Bowl commercial spots are now filled for CBS. And the game this year will be broadcast on CBS, Nickelodeon, and ESPN Deportes. The Bears have also signed Andrew Billings to a 2-year contract extension, and the Falcons will start Taylor Heineke on Sunday versus the Vikings. Josh Dobbs, quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, has been traded to the Vikings after Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. This was an interesting decision as Josh Dobbs was a huge part to this Arizona team. Now he is heading to Minnesota, and we will see where this decline will begin and how this will change the Arizona perspective and how this will change the Vikings. However, Josh Dobbs will not start this weekend as they will have their other backup quarterback in for this weekend. The Vikings are trading standout guard Ezra Cleveland to the Jaguars. The Falcons will get defensive tackles Kentavious Sweat from the Eagles in exchange for draft picks. The Seahawks get Giants Leonard Williams in exchange for second and fifth round draft picks. Commanders Chase Young goes to the 49ers. Commanders also send defensive end Montez Sweat to the Bears. And Jack Harlow will perform at the Lions Thanksgiving Day game halftime during the game on Thanksgiving.
All right.
And
Good
also,
points.
all trades are concluded for this year. Full list is available on Adam Schefter's Twitter, and you can also check out our Tuesday show of the 12th Horse Podcast for more. And it was a big night this week for Josh Harris' organization, as he has gotten rid of also 3 basketball players on top of 2 players for the Commanders, as he also owns the New Jersey Devils and the Philadelphia 76ers on top of the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the Commanders, because trading Chase Young and Montez Sweat, 2 of their best defensive players, that's just, it looks like they're packing it in for the year, right? So they're stockpiling.
I can't wait for Seattle to play them, because now we have a better chance, and that will be next week.
And I will tell you this, that trade that they made with the Giants, Leonard Williams is a very good football player. He did a great job for the Giants all the years that he was with us. But so they got it. He's probably going to be a free agent, I think, at the end of the season. So it could be just renting him. But Seattle seems like they're all in on this season, and that was a good move for them, because Leonard Williams is a very good football player.
I agree. But I just think just too many high draft picks. Other than that, it was pretty good.
Yeah. So,
a lot.
Yeah. So, listen, the NFL is closing in on the start of the second half of the season. And like I said, we'll have plenty to talk about week after week, and we'll see how Mr. Jones performs in his first game back. Hopefully that's neck injury was just that, something, minor, and that he's going to be okay. And like I said, week after week, we make our picks. So let's talk about our picks. So last week, Eli, we done good. 4-0, right?
Right. I was very happy, and I will make sure. Listen, I won't be on the show next week, but I want, if you can text me your picks, and I will text you what I pick if you could mention them, because I want to stay in it, regardless of if I'm on or not. I will make sure those picks are in. I will text you the picks so you can announce them for me.
Okay, as Eli said, he will not be joining us next week, so we'll have producer Rob back in the saddle with us for a week. So, by the way, Eli, I know it's your birthday coming up, so happy birthday to you, and enjoy your trip to Florida.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let's get into our picks after a stellar week last week, right? So I got 3 games I'm gonna call as our lock of the week, and game 1, Rams against Green Bay. I think Green Bay is an absolute mess right now. Jordan Love is not performing up to the level that Packer fans were certainly hoping for. Don't dismiss it altogether, but right now they're not playing well. They don't have a lot of offensive weapons, so I'm going to take the Rams over the Packers in game 1 of our locks of the week. And second game, Chicago at New Orleans. And we saw, I don't know, is the Justin Fields era over in Chicago? It certainly seems that way. That franchise is a little bit in trouble, and New Orleans is a hard team to figure out. As you know, I've never been a big Derek Carr fan, for all his years with the Raiders and so forth. But he's got some weapons in New Orleans. They got a pretty good offense. I like their chances this week to easily beat the Bears at home. And here, I think the game of the week, right, would probably be Buffalo and Cincinnati.
The DeMar Hamlin game.
Right? So Joe Burrow is playing just like Joe Burrow can play, right? The Bills, 1 week good, 1 week not so good. So I'm going with Cincinnati, and it will be an emotional game, because that's
it will be the DeMar Hamlin
game. DeMar Hamlin situation last year. But I like Cincinnati. I like the fact that they're really rolling right now. And when Burrow's hot, he's hot. And Buffalo, they have to get over these hurdles. They have to start beating the Cincinnatis and the Kansas City Chiefs if they're still going to be considered a a good chance to make it deep into the playoffs. We'll see. We'll see. So I
All
got
right.
Rams, New Orleans, Cincinnati. Eli, who are your picks?
For the Rams Packers game, that's on 1 p.m. on Fox. I'm taking the Rams 30-9. I think the Rams are the better team. The Packers do not look strong this year at all, and I don't think they could beat the Los Angeles Rams, who come off of a loss last week. They can definitely win this week. The Saints
Okay.
over. I am taking the Saints over the Bears, 20-18. Saints are the better team. Saints can do it once more. Bills Bengals. Give me the Buffalo Bills, 26-23. Despite Cincinnati playing well again, Buffalo is going to do good. Now knowing you have Damar Hamlin back in your hands, back ready to play and more, give me the Buffalo Bills to win. As my other game, as I always do, give me the Seattle Seahawks over the Baltimore Ravens, 24-20.
All right. Well, all right. So since you're making a bonus pick, right? So we differ only on the Bills game, and you've got the Seahawks. This is our bonus pick against the Ravens. Where's that game being played?
Baltimore.
Baltimore. I'm going to go with Baltimore on this one. So
so we disagree on 2 picks this week.
I admire your loyalty, but this is a business, Eli.
I'm aware, but this defense for Seattle just got loaded even more. If you think last week was good, now with all these draft picks added and these guys added from the trade deadline, Seattle's loaded. Offense needs some work, but that defense is there. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. Okay. Good. So I think we covered the NFL.
Very good.
Pretty much like we wanted to. So let's move on to college football. And I think the big game this week is Alabama LSU. And this, it's the big game. That's where college game day is today, I would assume,
it
right?
is. Yes, it is. For the second straight time.
Right. Another big game is Notre Dame Clemson. And I'm going to bring up Clemson later in our random points of interest because I saw something that was kind of interesting. It's certainly not the Clemson team that we're accustomed to. They already got 4 losses and, but this is a big game for them against Notre Dame. And we'll catch up on that. I think Notre Dame is in good position to beat Clemson, but you can never dismiss them. They got incredible talent on both sides of the ball. They just haven't put it together this year. And there is one other big game today. I guess big if you're from New Jersey, right? Rutgers is hosting the Ohio State Buckeyes, right? And that's a big game. It should be sold out down in Piscataway, New Jersey. And
yes, Jack's going to the game. So we hope he has a lot of fun. And I'm rooting for Rutgers. Go Rutgers. Go beat Ohio State.
Yeah, well, that's a big
tough,
ask.
Yeah, I know it's an ask, but yeah, you got to root for them. So go Rutgers. Go.
Well, listen, this is exactly what we talk about, right? If Rutgers is going to be in the Big Ten, these are the games that they're going to have to.
Guy Coriano just said road dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Anyway, so let's see. Even if Rutgers can keep with Ohio State and not get completely blown out of the building, that could be considered, a moral victory if nothing else, right? So we'll see. But college football is starting to get down to the last 4 games of the season, and then the playoff picture will be set. And this time next year, we'll be talking about it because they're going to the 12-team playoff format starting next year. Actually, I thought it was in 2 years, but I was mistaken. It actually does go into effect next year. So still the number 1 team to beat is Georgia. And they got, they don't have a cakewalk this week. Missouri's been playing well. But I think Georgia is not going to get, knocked off before this tournament begins. They're still the team to beat. They're 2-time national champions. And that should be a good game as well.
Right.
Right. So we got college football is winding down, and let's move right on to let's go to Major League Baseball because the season is now officially over. And the Texas Rangers have won their first World Series in team history. How about that?
That is good for the Rangers. I am
Yep.
thrilled. I was watching game 5. Let me tell you, that was a close game they played up until that ball got through the right fielder. And it was a close game for sure. They won 5-0 to win game 5 of the World Series. Rangers'
Yep.
first World Series win with a few guys out, including Garcia. Huge win, must win. And I was very happy. And I picked the Rangers to win the World Series, and I was correct. So congratulations to the Texas Rangers.
All right. Well, full disclosure here. I made my pick, and I thought the Diamondbacks were going to make this a little bit closer. I didn't think they were going to go in 5 games. I made that pick, even though Texas was up 1-0 at the time.
Yep.
But listen, Texas. How about this story, though? I mean, 2 years ago they lost over 100 games, and then 2 years later they win
a World Series.
Yeah. And you got to give credit to Corey Seager. So he's now a 2-time MVP for 2 different teams. And I think the only other time that has happened is Reggie Jackson, who was the MVP for the Oakland A's and an MVP, obviously, for the 77 Yankees, where he had the greatest game
of all time.
In Major League history. It was great. Now, it's not the only time that those 2 players won 2 MVPs. They were also Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax, non-position players. They were pitchers. Were also 2-time MVPs in the World Series. And hey, listen, if anybody deserved it, it was Corey Seager. He tore it up in that World Series. And congratulations to Texas.
Yeah, congratulations. They deserved it. Huge win, and we're glad for them to win. And any comments, please feel free to mention it, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So as soon as we close the book on one season, right, we got to start opening the book for next season. And what are the Yankees? What are the Mets? What are these teams that lost 100 games?
They're still going to lose. They're not going to do well. Same old story. Close the book. Same old, same old.
We hope not, but let's see. We got to get back into New York. The mix. Anyway, so congratulations to the Rangers, and the baseball season, as long as it is now over, officially over. So, Eli, let's move on to the NBA, and we touched on this last week about this James Harden and who does this guy think he is that he could walk in and say, I want to be traded? And I didn't think. I was hoping that the 76ers said, I don't care whether you want to be traded or not. But he ends up getting traded to the Clippers.
Yes, indeed. Was it a good trade? Yeah, I would say maybe. I mean, the Clippers look like they needed help. So good for the Clippers that they got that. And that was a pretty good trade. Honestly.
Yeah, but
and,
when you look
there was
at
conflict in it, but a trade is a trade. So,
well, the Clippers have a good team. Are they now even a better team with James Harden? Right. I say no. I still don't think they could measure up against the Denver Nuggets, and even probably the Lakers at this point. So, he got his wish. So he's now Los Angeles Clippers problem to deal with, because he will cause problems at some point. And you know what? I mean, good for the Sixers to rid themselves of them.
You're right.
Right? So, and Eli, so I guess last night was the start of this
in-season tournament.
I don't even know what to make of this in-season tournament thing.
Honestly, I could care less about it. I just heard that it started, and all I know is I would like to see who wins this trophy and how this affects them entering the playoffs. That's all I care about.
That's exactly right. I don't think anybody cares. I don't think it adds any additional excitement. Really, all it is compensation for these players, right? So the deeper into this quote-unquote tournament that they go, they get money. That's what it's all about. It doesn't change the game. The stats are still, these are considered regular season games. And I don't get it. I don't think the NBA was, came up with this idea and people were going to say, wow, what a great idea. I think it's absolutely useless. I don't get it.
It's all about the Benjamin. We say time and time out. It's all about the Benjamin. That's really all it is. I just want to see is if this is gonna be like the NHL when they do the President's Trophy winners. Is this like a little curse for the winning team? Will this curse them in the playoffs? Are they even gonna have a shot in the playoffs? What is this? Is this gonna be a new curse? That's what I'm looking into. Because obviously at
Good
this
luck.
point, it's all about the money. But I'm worried about, is this a curse? Is this a trap entering the playoffs? What does this guarantee? What does this mean? So I can't wait to when it ends. That's really what I'm
Well,
looking for.
you know my position on the NBA. The regular season really doesn't mean anything. It's long.
Yeah.
But the regular teams, and I got to tell you, that trade that Milwaukee made to get Damian Lillard is looks like that's going to make them the team to beat in the East, big time.
And we also have a comment from Guy Coriano. He says, no comment on Denver spanking CK.
CK. What is CK?
I'll Google. Let's find out. I'm not 200% sure.
I'm not sure what that means, Guy. But thanks
The
anyway.
guy, if you could clarify for us, that'll be great. Because
he's got to be talking about Russell Wilson beating the Chiefs, probably, right?
Casey, maybe Casey.
Yeah, that's what he meant.
Casey, there it is. Casey, it is Casey. Thanks, Guy, for clarifying. It's backwards. It was Kansas City. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, clarify now. So it's Kansas City. No comment there. Honestly, my comment is no Taylor Swift.
Okay. Yes.
It had to be said. They can't win without her. Clearly.
Look at the record. It's true. It's absolutely true.
And it's not like I'm a fan of her. Jack gets annoyed when I say it, but it's the truth. They can't win without Taylor Swift. Will they win in Germany tomorrow? That is the question.
Yeah, we got a 9:30 game tomorrow, which is always pretty cool on a Sunday, actually. So.
Yeah, it is. So we'll find out.
Yeah.
Thanks for the comment, Guy.
All right. So listen, we got a lot of stuff we covered already. We got some random points of interest, of course. Let's move right on to that. And that's sponsored by Lynch Toyota, of course, of Manchester, Connecticut. Sponsor since day one. Thank you, Mr. Lynch. A couple of quick things, right?
A lot.
Couple of quick things, because we saw a guy that I used to see play in high school against St. Joe's, Rashawn Gary. Remember, he played for Paramus Catholic. He's now just signed a huge deal, 4 years, $107 million extension. I mean, wow.
Wow. That is
right.
That's huge.
So the Packers are I mean, they're not selling their team; they're investing in this team. And Gary's I saw him play in high school. He was an outstanding player. And I was bringing this up before. I was talking about Clemson and Dabo Sweeney, and my random thought was, there was this rant he went on. He was on some talk show, and some guy was calling in and telling him that he's overpaid. He shouldn't make all this kind of money for a team that's and Dabo Sweeney went crazy on him, which it was kind of funny, because he's right. Dabo Sweeney's been at the top of the mountain before, and they're just having an off year. So immediately they're calling for his head. So he went off on this guy, and he justified, basically, look at his record, look at his resume, and if they're paying,
it says it all.
Right. So I thought that was interesting. Now, one thing, so also from the world of baseball, a guy, Nelson Cruz, has retired after 19 major league seasons. I think he's played for at least 8 teams.
Yes.
Came close. He came close to having 500 home run club. He's 464. He retires.
Yes.
2,000 hits. So he's been around for a long time, but that career has now come to an end. And Eli, we need to talk about this Adam Johnson. What we saw on the ice, and we certainly, obviously, we're going to bring him up in notable passings. But this is a topic that if you see the video, it's absolutely
horrendous to watch.
Heartbreaking,
horrible to watch.
And yes, it's an absolute kind of a fluke, and there's been questions whether it was intentional. Obviously not, but it's something that we don't really see. I remember
it happened
years
before
and years
the NHL,
ago,
but not as severe.
Yeah, but I remember going back to goaltender Clint Malarchuk for the Buffalo Sabres was actually cut as well, and that was a horrifying scene back then. But this one resulted in a fatality on the ice, and that's gonna reinvigorate the topic about
Neck
NHL
guards.
players wearing some sort of a neck guards now. You know.
Well, I would like to bring up that the English Hockey Association, where the incident has occurred, is now requiring neck guards beginning the 2024 season. So that is going to be happening for those interested. That is going to be happening in the English Hockey Association, not yet required in the NHL. They do wear neck guards or a bigger mask, as you would say, whenever a player comes back off of an injury, when it's upper body injury near the head area and more. So that is just something to keep out. If you're watching the English Hockey Association, they will now require neck guards. Still questionable at the moment on the NHL. We will figure that out. There was an interview with Gary Bettman and Pat McAfee. He talked a little about it, but not yet a main decision yet. It's going to take a while, but Players Hockey Association will be in touch in regards to those matters.
Yeah, it's always a shame when something like this has to happen before precautions are taken. And this was absolute tragedy. And our heartfelt condolences go to Adam
Absolutely.
Johnson
To the Penguins family and more.
Yep. So Eli, I think you got a couple.
I have a lot of.
Yep. Let me get one more in because we brought him up a couple of times when somebody dominates their sport, and Max Verstappen, from a Formula One perspective, broke the all-time record for most wins in a Formula One season. I mean, this guy is the Wayne Gretzky of Formula One racing, and
absolutely
he wins yet again. So go ahead, give me a couple of your random.
Tomorrow, the TCS NYC New York City Marathon returns. It'll be starting from Staten Island and ending in Central Park in Manhattan, going through all 5 boroughs. If you're heading to New York, expect lots of traffic, and take a look on where the route is, because you could be affected by the coverage in the game, the race. The coverage is available on ABC7 New York, Channel 7, or on ESPN2, and Spanish language is available on ESPN3. ESPN Bet, the new betting service, is planned to debut in the United States on November 14th. The states qualifying will be Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia. Disney is set to buy.
Let me bring up a point, because as you know, and we talk about this offline, I do not advocate sports betting. This is not a promotion for any particular venue. I find the sports betting, I just find it to be a bad taste for sports, but it's no signs of it slowing down. So
I figured I mentioned that because that is what is being released, and that is going to change ESPN and what you watch more and more differently. Before I continue, we have a comment from Jeremy. He says, "Get better, Stevie." Moving on to my next points. Disney is set to buy the rest of Hulu from Comcast for $8.61 billion. This is important because ABC and ESPN promote stuff on Hulu. So this could change the game on how we watch sports, or how everything is going to change, as now Disney is going to buy the rest. ESPN will have a Red Zone style show for college football tonight with Pat McAfee and crew, plus host of Reese Davis tonight, 7:30 p.m. More than likely on ESPN2 and on ESPN Plus for the nighttime games, and also a little bit of the recap of what happened throughout the earlier window. The first 2 hours of NFL Red Zone will be free to everyone tomorrow as a promotion and in honor of the 20th anniversary of NFL Network. Mike Breen has signed a 4-year contract with ESPN as the main public play-by-play announcer. That is, if ESPN can still maintain the rights. Both ESPN and TNT's contracts are expiring with the National Basketball Association. Finally, 2 more points to conclude. Tickets are on sale now for next year's Stadium Series at MetLife. Devils tickets for the Devils Flyers at MetLife start at $75, and the NHL has confirmed that all 80,000 seats are expected to be filled. Jack Hughes possibly dislocated his shoulder. Only an MRI will tell that is happening today. So check out my Twitter to see what's up and more details. The Devils lost last night 4-1 to the Blues. Currently 6-3-1. Devils play tomorrow night versus the Blackhawks, 7 p.m. on MSG Networks locally, and on NHL Network nationally. And one more comment from Jeremy. He says, "What is baseball gonna do with a dwindling fan base? Came in late of already covered."
Yeah, well, no, a couple of things, Jeremy. So now, and of course, Steve, Jeremy's point was get well, Steve. That obviously that's my brother, and we try not to dwell on it, but he's doing much better. He's going to be fine, and Jeremy's been a supporter of him. So Jeremy, thank you. And
is there any
Steve,
hope when he'll possibly come back to be on?
No,
Yeah,
we're working on it. We're working
that's
on
good.
it.
Good to hear.
So, well, a dwindling fan base. You know what, Jeremy? Overall, it sounds like you're right. But I think from a sports perspective, because we're on the East Coast, we look at it as a Yankees and a Mets thing. So once they're out of the playoff picture, it kind of dwindles. But you're right. On a national level, did this World Series appeal to the average fan? No, you're absolutely right. It really didn't. But you know what? I don't think it's a reflection that baseball is losing fan base. I think if you're a baseball fan, you'll always be a baseball fan. But when the Yankees and the Mets are having down season, it kind of gets pushed to the back burner, and certainly in the tri-state area. So on a national level, though, you're right. I don't think it had the following that you would expect of a World Series.
He also made another comment. He also goes, ratings etc. It's NFL, NBA, golf.
Yeah, well, listen, the NFL is by far and away the most popular sport in this country for sure. NBA, they do have viewership because there's incredible talent out there in the NBA, and people like seeing Jokic and all of these guys, and Giannis and the great basketball players of their generation play. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely.
NBA is so far from being decided about who's going to even be in the playoff hunt. It doesn't really matter. So anyway, so good stuff, Eli. Random points, and of course, so we have to move on to our. Well, first of all, before we move on to our notable passings, let's just do a little bit of a recap as we constantly bring up what from a talent pool perspective, high school football. And
we have a comment again from Jeremy. He said, "Soccer with Messi will get more eyeballs." Yeah,
there's no question about it. That's why they're paying him that kind of money. That's absolutely going to generate viewership. It was a great business decision by Inter Miami to bring him in. And you know what? They're going to start bringing in some more talent in that league, and that league's on its way up for sure. But getting back to high school football, obviously the playoff picture starts this weekend, and
most games happened yesterday.
Yeah, so kind of the opening round, and my St. Joe's team lost last week to Del Barton, which cost them a spot in the seedings. But playoff, and like I said, they're going to probably the matchup people really want to see. I think this year is St. Joe's and Bergen Catholic and Giants in MetLife Stadium.
Right,
so
100%.
And Eli's team, the St. Mary's Gales, kind of
got defeated
last night, right?
Yeah, 63-21 was the final last night. The Gales did not have a good night. They had a good first half, let me tell you, because your White was huge. I vote him for president, as one of our viewers commented yesterday. Overall, I just want to say one quick thing, since we did not have too much airtime yesterday and we did not really get to do a fully goodbye. I would like to thank everybody from all the St. Mary football organization for letting us broadcast each and every game, for helping us out every game, as well as to all the viewers who watched the St. Mary football, as well as to Bobby, who's been helping us out with all the camera and everything. So I just want to thank everybody for making this all possible, and we cannot wait for basketball and wrestling in December.
Very good. So listen, high school football, it's really awesome. Certainly, we get some high level talent here in New Jersey.
Yes, we do.
We do. It's great. Anyway,
Movie
So we'll
time.
move on to our. Oh well, first of all, I didn't give my movie recommendation yet.
Yeah,
So
what's your movie time?
all
We're gonna get a
right.
movie in.
So and listen, I got to believe most people have seen it, but if you haven't seen it in a while, it stands the test of time. Caddyshack with Rodney
Yeah.
Dangerfield. It's one of the great movies, and yes, we call it a sports, but it is a total comedy. It's great, and I hope if you haven't seen it, see it.
All right.
All right, Eli. So we got to move on to our notable passings
It's a
segment,
horrible
and
segment, but yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, I guess we even would start off from the world of entertainment because Matthew Perry passed away from Friends, which was one of the most popular shows of all
Yes,
time,
it
right?
was. It was. He
And
was
listen,
born on. I'm gonna just give some quick thoughts about him real quick. Born in,
yeah,
in 1994, he was 29. Yeah, sorry. Born in 1969, he was 54. And also to give you a history, the Friends film and all had such huge success. I had the opportunity to tour Warner Brothers Studios in 2019 when I went to Los Angeles. One quick fact about it: they dedicated a stage 24, where they did to Friends. So it's known as the Friends Stage 24. They also did that to The Ellen Show for stage 1, The Big Bang Theory in stage 25, and ER in stage 11. So there's a few shows in Warner Bros. They have their own stage dedicated to them for having being there
mhm.
for 10 straight years and having huge success. And it was always a good song. So yeah,
Well,
that they played.
I
I'll
mean,
be there for you.
this is kind of a tragedy because we see what addiction can do to somebody, and he battled addiction his entire life for the most part, and it's a sad ending, but almost a predictable ending when you can't conquer these
Yes.
demons, and so his life ends at 54, and but I got to tell you, I wasn't a big Friends fan, but he was very, very funny on that show, I must say.
Yeah, he was.
Yep.
Guy Coriano said to me to watch Rudy.
Well, Eli, he's a sponsor of our show, so you have to
Yes.
listen. And
I have to listen. I will get it done. The homework will be done.
we're not going to let you slide on this. So until you
Okay.
rent Rudy and watch it, it's a must see TV.
All right.
Anyway, right? So a couple other notable passings. Frank Howard, right? Longtime Major League Baseball player, manager of the Mets and the Senators. I think he was also a manager for.
Yep.
Was 87 years old. He was Rookie of the Year in 1960, and he was a very large man. I actually saw a picture yesterday of him standing next to Harmon Killebrew, who was a member of the 500 home run club himself, who himself was a big man, and he looked tiny standing next to Frank Howard. But Frank Howard had 382 lifetime home runs, and he managed the Padres and the Mets as well. So big
Yes.
loss for baseball. He was not sure if he's a Hall of Famer or not. I don't
You don't
know that.
know.
I have to look that up. You know.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that was a big passing. 87. Here was
Right.
another one. This was a surprise one too. Walter Davis. And Steve and I certainly remember Walter Davis playing for Dean Smith at North Carolina. And, you know, he was a great basketball player, came out and was number one draft pick for the Phoenix Suns. He's still the Phoenix Suns all time leading scorer. He was 69 years old. And excuse me. So Walter Davis, that's a big loss, no question. They actually lost in the finals that year to Al McGuire and the Marquette basketball team in 1977. So he didn't get a championship at North Carolina, but he was certainly considered a legend. And his nephew is now the head coach, Hubert Davis of North
Wow.
Carolina. So
Yeah.
that's a big loss there. And one other note I wanted to bring up because this guy, Eli and I were talking before the show.
Yes.
Ken Mattingly passed away. He was 87 years old. And Ken Mattingly was one of the guys on the Apollo 13 team He was supposed to go up on that mission, but he ended up coming down with rubella or something, so he would have put the other astronauts in jeopardy. But he was very prominent in bringing that spaceship home with and all the surviving members of that crew. So he was very instrumental in the NASA program, and we always bring, Steve and I always mentioned all our astronauts. 87 years old, very big loss.
Absolutely. And another known one that I forgot to mention, ABC General Hospital, Tyler Christopher died at the age of 50. He was born in 1972. For those interested in General Hospital, I'm not, but I figured I mentioned that because some people are.
I don't know. I never even heard of the name. So okay. Anyway, so those are some. Like I said, go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, you have a photo.
Yes, I do have a photo. It's Halloween, and there's wait, is that Patrick Mahomes? No, that's my grandson, actually. Cool costume, Logan. Cool costume.
We also have a comment from Etin.
Eric Tenbrook.
And Eric Tenbrook. Oh, okay, there we go. Good morning, you all. And
Eric, listen, from a loyal listener perspective, you're all we could ask for. You listen to the show every single week, and not only you're a dear friend of mine, but you're a loyal supporter of the show, and we thank you very, very much, sir.
Absolutely.
Very much. Right. So as Eli has up on our little screen here, a reminder you set the clocks back 1 hour.
1 hour tonight. Reminder, set the clocks back. So if it's not 10 o'clock now, it's really 9:51. The clocks go back.
Yeah.
More sleep for you. Early sunrise will be in the morning, and later an early going the sun comes down. There you go. Couldn't think of it.
Well, yeah. Right. So we'll because I've been driving to work in the dark and coming home sometimes in the dark. So now we at least get a little bit of light in the morning.
A little bit of both.
Yeah. So anyway, so great stuff, Eli. And listen, I needed to mention happy birthday again. I know you'll be away next week, but of course, as always, I will be manning the show again without question. And Rob's going to be joining us next week as our producer. So I wish you a happy birthday and a good trip to Florida with your family.
Thank you very much. I will make the picks, even though if I'm not on the show, I will text you the picks. Just let me know what it is, and then I will make sure I make those picks. And I can't wait to be back in 2 weeks.
Excellent. Yeah. So again, thank you for all of our loyal listeners and the guys commenting and Jeremy and so forth. You guys mean the world to us, and we try to cover as much as we can in the time that we have. But without us and the success that we're enjoying now, and things are starting really to pick up with viewership, we're on a lot of different platforms now. We thank you guys and loyal listeners. You mean the world to us. So
thank you very much.
And listen, folks, so lots of stuff going on, very, very busy. And we'll be back here next week with just as much material to cover. And like I said, thank you all for joining us this week, and get out there and see a high school football game on a Saturday if you got nothing to do.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.
All right, guys. Thanks, Eli.